Hello, everybody. Welcome to Tea with Mr.V, a show where I sit down with some creators and some of my friends and have some nice chats with some nice drinks and tea. I'm your host, Mr.V. I am not Tea with Mr.V. Apologies. I am just Mr.V. From the Adventures of Mr.V on TikTok. Find me there. I also have a Ko-fi, kofi.com/Tea with Mr.V. If you want to head on over there, that's pretty cool too. And joining me today is the wonderful musical master himself, Weston ArcaneAnthems. Hello, Weston.
Hello. It's good to be on the show, Mr. V. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, not a problem. So we'll just get through some quick announcements. Make sure to catch this show every week. And we have different creators on each week. So that's cool. Check out our other campaigns on this channel. The Sorodin campaign, which is on Saturdays, as well as possibly our Bioshock campaign. We're still working on that. Anything you'd like to promote, Weston?
Yeah, so I write free RPG music for the community. All of my music is available for free on my Patreon, which is patreon.com/ArcaneAnthems. I also am about to do a brand new show on Bard Community College, so twitch.tv/Bard Community College, where it's called One Shot 101, where we're going to be taking non-D&D TikTokers, teaching them how to play Dungeons and Dragons. Our first guests are Kyle, the cowboy, and then we have Laws Claus, and then we have Tinsman. So we have quite a fun lineup for this first round, and I'm just excited to bring more people into our fun little cult that is Dungeons and Dragons and the fun that we have there. I also am on another show on Bard Community College on the 2nd, 3rd, and 4th Tuesdays of the month called The Rift. That is a post-apocalyptic fantasy story. So, a lot of fun.
Yeah, you can also catch me there as well because I am also a cast member.
That's
playing
true.
With this guy.
We are both on The Rift.
We are both on the Rift, and you know what? It's a time. It's a time.
Do you like depression? Do you like pain?
Do you like to feel sad?
Do you like emotional trauma?
Tagline of the show is just, don't worry, it's just trauma. Quote by Mr. Weston himself.
Only I could come up with such a silly saying.
Thank you all for coming. This is also a reminder that there will be a Q&A section towards the end of the show. So our moderators are looking out for questions. So if you have any questions you'd like to ask throughout any of the show, just send them in the chat and we'll be able to pick them out. And who knows, maybe your question will get answered by me and the lovely Weston. So, Weston, I have a very important question for you.
Okay.
We always start off the show like this. What are we drinking today?
Oh, well. So one of my favorite drink combinations is orange juice and sparkling apple cider. It kind of has a very, I don't know, it's a good way to wake up in the morning. I always say I adding apple sugar to orange sugar is just a winning combination. And today I'm drinking from my little Harry Potter mug. Has the Marauder map on it, and then it says, "I solemnly swear that I'm up to no good," along the back, and it's kind of this giant oversized mug. So
damn, your mug game is almost as good as mine.
That's an adorable mug.
It's a staple for this show. This is the origin story of Tea with Mr.V.
Is the cupcake mug?
It's the cupcake.
I dig
mug.
it. I'll have to get a matching one for sure.
Oh yeah, we're working on merch soon. I swear.
It's just a cupcake mug.
Just a cupcake mug on a t-shirt.
We'll get somebody to 3D print a bunch of cupcake mugs.
Yeah, it's gonna be amazing. Thank you for coming on the show. So let's start this off. Let's start this off.
Let's dive in.
So obviously, we have both met on TikTok, and through other ways. But how did you actually get started online? Like, yeah.
Good question. How did I get started online? I'm assuming how did I get started with making music and like all this kind of promotional stuff online?
Yeah.
I started a couple years ago with my kind of older brand name before I changed it to ArcaneAnthems, just the beginning of this year. And I decided to, because I had written some anthems, some songs for members of my own party that we've been playing together for the last 5 years. The same campaign, mind you, which is a lot of fun. And I had written some songs for each of their characters, and they really enjoyed them. And then I thought to myself, well, I wonder if other people would like this too. I wonder if other people would like songs for their characters. So I started writing individual commissions for people's characters, and it was going really well. And I had lots of commissions, but I didn't have lots of followers. I think after about 2 years of work on Instagram, I had about 600 followers. And I had lots of work, but that following wasn't really there. And then a friend of mine on Instagram was like, "Hey, your content, like you should really get on TikTok. Like you should really get on TikTok." That was last December, and I was like, "Okay, sure." And TikTok has its funniness about it. And when I hopped on the app, I was a little bit ashamed. I didn't tell anybody that I had gone on. I had gone onto TikTok.
Yeah.
Because we all know how straight TikTok is. And so I kind of went into it and I was a little bit like sheepish about it, but I was like, okay, I'm gonna do some research on here and see what this is all about and like what this is for. And then once I had a handle on like, oh, you take the same audio and you add your own spin visually to it. And I started doing that with D&D. I think one of my first posts was me. It said, what is it? You know, I'm your type, right? That one. So I was doing it like a dungeon master thing, and I was putting up all the different ways I like to DM. And then I got a ton, like so much interaction on that video. I was blown away by the engagement on TikTok and how fun and how like nice generally people are on there. You know, like 99% of the people that I meet are spectacular. So yeah, I got started doing it that way, and then I met all these other D&D TikTokers through there, and man, it's such a good time now. And being able to reach out to non-D&D TikTokers and saying like, hey, you might want to be on the show. Like you might want to, like, have you ever considered playing Dungeons and Dragons? Let's combine our communities and make something really cool.
Yeah, 100%. It's all about that, like that social networking kind of thing of like, you know, finding like different people and like, you know, interacting with them and like interacting with people who don't play D&D and being like, hey, do you want to like have a chance to learn? And I think that's also like really important. You know, just giving people the opportunity to be like, hey, here's something that, you know, you may or may not enjoy. Why don't you learn about it?
Well, and I mean, it's my idea that if you play D&D in the right way, like it's hard to not enjoy it. Like it's difficult to, because it's really just a game about people. It's just a game about things that pretty much everybody can relate to. Like once you wrap your brain around, okay, I'm an elf. Like like once you figure out that, like get past that aspect of it, it's really about relationships. And especially on TikTok, where people are very like open and very kind of vulnerable with themselves, people who are willing to be that way are excellent D&D players. And you know, a lot of these people are really good at improv, and they're kind of aspiring actors, and like this is what they want to do with their life. And the D&D has been such a blessing in my life, being able to stretch those like drama and acting chops and muscles that I don't really get a chance to outside of this. That it's just a ton of fun, and I think a lot of people are going to enjoy it.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, it's always like like people who like start off playing D&D, you know, we can't, you know, give them like too much strife and stuff, you know, not knowing everything and stuff like that, which is why, you know, I'm sure that's why you also like wanted to create that show of like, you know, D&D 101 is like being like, hey, like, again, here's how you learn how to play it, because I'm pretty sure even the most common questions that I get, a lot of other creators get, is like, I love D&D, how do I start playing it? So like,
absolutely.
yeah.
I think there is a, like, it's necessary that you have somebody bring you in.
Yeah.
I mean, I had a Twitch stream bring me in. Like, I started playing Dungeons and Dragons as a dungeon master, which is like a lot for some people. But I mean, I have an improv background, I have an acting background, I have a you know, a showman background, so it's not that big of a deal to me. To DM, like, I really enjoy it, and I wasn't afraid of being wrong. Like, everybody else in my group was brand new, so whatever I said, like, they're just like, all right, I guess it's that way.
Okay.
And since then, they've learned a lot in the last 5 years. So they call me out when, you know, I don't do something right or whatever it might be. But the idea that, you know, I think it's a lot easier when somebody else brings you in, or you see somebody else and you're inspired to be like, okay, I'm going to talk to my group of friends about this, because my group of friends scoffed at me when I first brought it up, and they were like, oh, that's pretty nerdy, Weston, are you sure? And I was like, no, trust me, it's actually super cool. And again, we've been playing for the last 5 years, so
Nice. It's actually surprising how many people, like, it is like quite a rare occurrence, but I'm surprised how many people I've met that have been like, oh yeah, I started playing D&D as a dungeon master. Like, it's crazy to be thrown into like D&D with everything and be like, okay, I'm the one who controls the world. What am I doing?
I think that modules, like, for me, I'm not a big reader, which is kind of funny. But for me, modules are actually more intimidating than homebrewing. I much prefer homebrewing campaigns as to, like, leading a module, and I think it has to do with the fact that, like, there's so much information in the module that you, like, don't want to mess up. But if it's your homebrew world, for me, if I mess it up, I can make it right. Like, I can make it make sense. So I tend to do a lot more homebrew everything, because I don't need the judgment of, like, oh, you forgot the last name of this merchant in this place. Like, who cares? Who cares?
Yeah.
So
it's
I
Jared, and will always be Jared.
now it's Jared. His first name is Jared and his last name is Jared. So Jared owns a blacksmithing shop, has been there for 14 years. I mean, it's so much easier just to dive in, and for me, other people want that direction. Like, there's a reason that there are modules there, and I think the modules play a really essential role in teaching DMs how to run combat really well, how to come up with different ideas for traps, ideas for encounters, those types of things. Like, they're really amazing idea machines, and that's really what I use them for. Is I'll read through them and I'll say, like, ooh, this little section, this is a cool idea. How can I, you know, fandangle it to make it, you know, work in my campaign?
As soon as you said fandangle and you were talking about modules, my first thought went to Lost Mines of Fandela, like the classic.
There are horses dead in the road.
Yes, that's how. Ooh, you all start off in a tavern. So yeah, you also mentioned that, you know, one of your main things that, you know, you do is creating RPG music for people. Like, how has that been, you know, providing that?
Well, I mean, it starts in a place that's like, I'm a creator, and as a musician, I've had to also learn how to do videography and photography. I've had to learn how to do all sorts of other crafts that you wouldn't think a musician needs to learn how to do. I've had to learn how to set up Twitch streams. I've had to learn all the tech side of music making, which is very different from the composing or songwriting side. You know, making sure that your songs are balanced and mixed properly and all these things. So Because of that, because I've had to go through this process of having to learn how to do everything, I realize that not everybody has the time or the energy or the desire to learn how to do everything all the time. Like if you're a dungeon master, you are probably you could be an amazing dungeon master, but you don't know how to write musical scores. Like that's fine. Like that should be okay. And I wanted to provide a service that allows people to bring the experience that music provides in movies and video games into their games. Because for me, the music is what like elicits the emotion. If you watch a very emotional movie and you turn the music off, it it's going to seem awkward and strange because the music is what tells you kind of how to feel. Not to mention, it allows the players to focus on something. Like for me, if nothing is going on, I get a lot of anxiety. Just in general, like I need to always be doing something. So with a very small amount of music in the background, a very light amount of music, it helps me to focus, and it makes games more enjoyable for me and more emotional and more engaging. So I wanted to give everyone that opportunity by making all my songs available for free, and then hoping that people would also like to get some additional rewards, but mainly just support me in this cause.
Yeah, 100%. I love that. I love that you're putting your own, like, obviously, like, as you work as a your work as a musician in itself. Like, I love that you'd love like providing this for people for free, just because you're just a good person and want people to experience that in their games. I think it's amazing.
Well, and I mean, people do this all the time. I mean, if you look at YouTube as a whole, like try and not think about YouTube as the company, but YouTube as as this amazing resource for learning. Like, how many things can you go onto YouTube and learn how to do? I mean, I get my I get my science news from there. I get my music creation, composition knowledge from there, and all those creators are essentially doing that content for free. They have their Patreon pages, they have those things, but they provide that service, for free, and hope that the community will support them. So it's not just me doing this. Like there's so many creators now who are using this model to like to kind of up the game of other creators and increase the knowledge in the world as a whole, which is so cool.
Yeah. No, I get that, 100%. But still, I think it's amazing what you do. It's
I appreciate that. It's a lot of work.
So yeah,
I'm not gonna lie.
I bet.
I mean,
like I was actually gonna ask about like what's like your process for like making like all this RPG music.
So it all starts with a bit of inspiration, and for me, that comes from my patrons. First off, I get ideas from them. So one of the things about being a patron of my, being a patron, is that you get the opportunity to suggest anthems or ideas for me, and that can come in the form of like, hey, one of my favorites was he said, hey, I have a funeral for a dwarven king, and I need a funeral march song. And I was like, that sounds really cool. Like I want to make that happen. So I took that idea, and I get all these amazing suggestions from people, but I took that idea and I imagined in my head a city that had massive, like super thick, massive, strings going underneath the city, essentially these like cables going under the city. And I imagined these cables reverberating throughout the entire city, creating this kind of cacophony, music, as this, the death of this king, which in the Dwarven society only happens every, couple hundred years. So it's like a big event, right? And so I made this song with these massive low emitting strings and these like chants, and it was so fun to bring that idea to life. And that's, for me, is where my inspiration comes from, is from people, is from others, because there are so many stories, so many characters, so many encounters, so many places that these songs could reflect, that I would kind of get analysis paralysis if it were up to me to choose and then execute on. But bringing somebody else's vision to life is way more fulfilling for me. The reason that I make music is to connect with people. It's always been why I've done music. It's why I played on the guitar as a 16-year-old. It's because I never felt like just using my words I could be truly understood. So I write music to show the rest that is there, to connect with people in a way that sometimes words alone can't do. So it's a very personal thing to me.
Yeah, definitely. Oh, we're getting deep here right now. That's some.
We're gonna
Like,
travel
I
down
love
this
it.
well, son.
I love it. I love it so much. That's amazing. It's very inspiring as well to, like, you know, hear what's, you know, your reasoning for making music. But like I have to ask, like, what's your main inspiration for, like, making music?
Like why do I make it?
Well, like, what was your
Or-
inspiration to start making music? Sorry, yeah.
Oh, I think it
Like-
all starts with it all started with a girl. Like
As it does.
As a 16-year-old kid, like I wanted to get the attention. Like I wanted to like I said, build connections with people in a way that that my words often failed me. And for me, it all goes back to this idea of understanding. I'm a huge proponent of understanding each other can be greater than agreeing with one another, because out of understanding comes love. And for me, why I make music now has everything to do with the love that I have for making music. I also experience music on a very like visceral level, like on a very like physical level. When I hear things, I tear up. When I hear things, I get chills. So whatever the wiring in my brain is, music like taps into that really deeply. That I feel it. And sometimes I'll come up with chords or I'll come up with progressions that just trigger those emotional responses in me. And those are really like magical moments for me, to hear those things come together. And there's a whole nother aspect of like the technical, like how do you make music? Like I get asked that question all the time, you know, like where do I start? Like I maybe I have a melody in my head. Like how do you take a melody and turn it into an orchestral piece or into a rock song? And for me, that's part of the magic of it, is going from this simple idea that can be plucked out on like 4 keys on a piano and then getting it down. That's step one. Like you have to record it. If you don't record it, it will go nowhere. It will be lost to the ether. So you record that and then you keep writing. Then you write the next part. If it's a high part, then maybe you write a middle part or a really low part. People think that music has to be complicated and crazy. It doesn't. A lot of songs have like 8 note, like 8, not even 8, 4 or 5 different, maybe 4 chords in them, maybe 3 chords in them. It can be really simple, and it just starts with a melody.
Yeah, I love that. It's always interesting to hear like someone's like the general process and like how people start making music. And like I have to ask, like, what has it been like currently, like in this day and age, working that kind of like music scene?
Very different and really wonderful. I played music in a band for 10 years, and that experience taught me that I don't want to be on tour. Like that's not what I want. I have a family. I have 3 kids. I have, a beautiful wife, and making music on the road is not what I want to do. I love being home. I love being with them. I love being a present parent and a present husband. And in the past, being a musician meant travel. It just did. And now I can make music and I can feel fulfilled and I can connect with people all from my chair at home. through my compositions. And that's such a huge blessing to me, like being able to do that. And the internet, TikTok, Instagram, makes those things possible. Being able to market myself in a very unique way. I don't have to move to LA. I can live wherever I want.
Yeah.
And make music, and do exactly what I'm doing right now. At least I hope to, after people continue to support me. Thank you if you are supporting me. I really appreciate it. That's the dream anyway, right? Is to keep this going.
Yeah. And in saying that, correct me if I'm wrong, you've now switched to make this your full-time career. Is that correct? Like, how has that switch been to like be making music full-time?
It takes a lot of savings. So making sure that I built up enough. I was in a job before where I was teaching technology to people. I was a head trainer at a very large electronics company, and while I enjoyed that work, it started to I started to feel underutilized, and that started to give me massive anxiety attacks and panic attacks and all sorts of things. The kind of the way that they manifested. I'm doing so much better now without that stress on me, but I also realized that like making money is really important, especially when you have a family. So I had to figure out a way to also monetize the work that I was doing, and commissions. The problem with doing this type of work is that it's very time intensive and very creatively draining. So doing a ton of commissions isn't in the cards for me. So I wanted to focus my work onto this kind of free market where I can give my stuff away for free and then put my faith in the community to provide, that they would still like to have these things, that they would want me to keep making music for them. And then through that, I've met a lot of other really great musicians who are doing very similar things, who are finding success with it. And for me, it's a matter of being consistent, having fun with people. The same reason I do my silly parodies on TikTok, and some of them are just really fun. I miss singing, which is why I do that. But that's the reason. That's kind of how that's going. It's going really, really well. I'm having more success now than I did in the 10 years I was making, rock music. And it's because of the support of this community, which is fantastic.
Yeah, exactly. It's fantastic. It's definitely like, with like, because your main, obviously we don't have to talk about like, how much you earn and that kind of stuff, but your main source of income would come from your Patreon, as well as like, any commission work that you get. So like, and like through like TikTok, using that as like kind of your, I guess, main kind of platform, how has it been like using kind of social media itself to like boost your own career?
You have to be so creative. You have to be. One of the things about social media is you quickly realize that it's a game of you are a very tiny fish in a massive pond. But one of the things that I've learned about it is you don't have to attract the whole pond. Like, you can find your people. And when you do something that is unique, when you do something that is worthwhile, those fish will come. And sometimes it takes more time than you'd like, but that's what artistry is, right? It's being as true to yourself as possible, and then also trying to kind of drum up the market. I mean, when I was doing music on Instagram, I was trying to keep my page really clean, really awesome looking. I was partnering with artists who had made amazing art to like collab with their art and my music, and it just didn't go anywhere until I started making D&D parodies, which is when really things like popped off. And it just came down to me finding something else that was in my same realm of skill set that was unique and different, that not everybody was doing. And since then, I've seen, other people doing parodies as well, and that's great. Like, there is room enough, and this is something that my wife has taught me. There is room enough in the world to have lots of RPG musicians. There's room enough in the world, and have all those people do very, very well. And so I really try hard to not keep so many secrets. Like, I want other people to succeed. So if something works for me, I'm going to share that thing, and hope that that other people also benefit from it.
Yeah, I love that. It definitely goes back to that kind of like teaching people, and figuring out so how they can do things and how they can, which I definitely see. I would see you as definitely somebody who is a teacher of these things, either like through D&D, TikTok, music, even. Like, I know a lot of people look up to you in itself, as one of the people who got them into this community. And I love that.
That's a lot of responsibility, and and I absolutely do love teaching. It's something that is really fun for me. And in order for me to keep it fun, I need to make sure that I'm not getting, dragged down into the minutia. There are channels on YouTube that are fantastic for the minutia. People who often, I use Logic on to create all my music, and I'm very, very good with it. And people say, like, hey, why don't you post like Logic tutorials? I'm like, because it's been done. Like, there's this guy out there called Music Tech Help Guy who is fantastic. If you want to learn Logic, learn from him. But then if they have more more specific questions, then I'm happy to answer those things. That might not be covered in a tutorial. But everything that you have ever wanted to know is out there. Somebody is really good at it, and somebody can teach you how to do it. And you just have to be open and willing to type in the search bar, how do I make dice? Done. And then be willing to make mistakes, and learn from those mistakes. And then in 10 years, if you keep at it, you will be an expert at that thing. And so at whatever age you are, some people think that, I'm 35, like, why would I learn a new task? So that when you're 45 and 55 and 65 for the next 30 years, you love that thing. And you're good at that thing. Like, that's why you do it. 10 years is a long time. Like, that's a long time to enjoy something.
Exactly.
Anyway, I don't know if I'm passionate.
You're never too young to learn a new skill. Never.
You're never too old to learn a new skill. And that's like our whole thing with humanity. Like, we are obsessed with progression. Like, I feel the happiest people are those who keep pushing toward improving themselves in ways that makes them happier, and in ways that makes them feel more fulfilled. Those are the people who are, who lie on their deathbed and smile, and know that what they've done has meant something. Anyway, that's what I want. Like, I want when, hopefully in 50 or 60 years that I can look back at my life and be like, that was really cool. That was a journey. That was something that, I touched a lot of people. I connected with a ton of people. I spent my time understanding. I spent my time creating something new and something beautiful, and I did it. And I want other people to feel that same fulfillment.
But wow, damn, I'm at a loss for words. Like, you made the host go have an existential crisis again.
I'm sorry, Mr.V. So, the weather today is really hot.
I'm
the like
weather.
melting.
It is. I'm sure people are gonna, I always like to say, I want to be. I don't want to be successful. I want to be remembered. Is what like my goal. I want people to look back at me and what I've done and be like, I know what this person did. Like, it doesn't matter if I was successful. It doesn't matter if I've made a ton of money, and like I've done some like really like ingenious intuitive thing that people will use forever. I just I feel like that's something that people should strive for. Myself.
And I mean, hopefully you'll be remembered, for the good things, for the lives that you
For
touched.
the good things. That's kind of that's kind of what I'm trying to put here. I'm not exactly gonna go out and be like, you know what? I met a lot of people. I'm happy with myself.
I will be remembered one way or another. Oh, yeah, that's probably not ideal, but yeah, I definitely understand that. Like the idea of remembering and being remembered. I have a lot of friends of mine who do like family history work, and there's definitely something to kind of going back in time and looking at the people who who you are made up from, and whose legacy you are carrying on, and like what are you doing with that? Are you changing that legacy? Are you making it better? Are you people have been, and this is going to sound dumb, people have been people for a long time. And even 1,000 years ago, they would have a lot of the same conversations that we have today. They wouldn't be doing it over Discord or on Twitch, but they would be talking about their tough relationships. They'd be talking about how hard work is. They'd be talking about things they're worried about. Like humanity has been around for so long, and our social conversations have been very similar for a long time, and that's a powerful thing. I'm sorry if we. So my favorite theme park is.
It is okay. I'm here for this. I'm here for this. But insane all of this. Like you as an online presence, and like going forward with that, like how have you felt being that kind of online kind of staple for some people, inspiration for others? Like how have you found being that kind of influencer, if you would?
I don't feel like I am. Like I'm not at the point like that I don't feel like I touch that many people's lives, and yet when I look at like follower counts, like I have like what 30k or something. Like that amount of people fills a stadium, and I'm constantly reminding like you don't even know. Like a lot of people don't. If you have 8,000 followers, you don't even know what that looks like. Like when you're at a stadium and you see more people than your brain can like comprehend, that's how many people we're talking about here. So it's important that the behaviors that we are exuding on social media are ones that we want other people to emulate, because that's how we make the world better. Like if I can hopefully like make somebody's day by with the songs I put out, or with the silly D&D content that I do, or a little inspirational post here and there, like that is so worth it to me. And when you times that one life times thousands, that's a crazy amount of influence, and it's something that I take very seriously, and it's something that I try to remind myself of often. Like, and again, I'm not a big creator, and I don't feel any different having 30,000 followers and having 600 followers on Instagram. Like I'm not a different person. I'm still just me, but it's important that we recognize the impact that we can have. Okay, let's say you have 200 followers on those 200 people. That's 200 lives.
Exactly.
Yeah. So it's a big deal.
Yeah, and I think it's definitely important to see it as that kind of. It's not just like as much as like there are like people who like we know creators on TikTok who say like just like a meme page, or like just like somebody who is just like posting like other people's videos that they make on YouTube, something like that, which you shouldn't do without proper credit. But yeah, even to those extent, like you have the content in which you put out is a content in which people watch, and you could be, you could affect somebody with like the things you post. You never know. Like obviously we want to like affect people positively, and give them like a sense of like joy or like happiness. But yeah, taking that kind of like responsibility and being like, okay, like I have this many people, and this many people watch my content on a regular basis. Like taking that into like a serious thing and being like, okay, I need to make sure that I don't, do something that might affect a few people, because a few people, when it comes to like, if it comes to like 200 people, if you only affect like say 1 in every 10, that's still like 10 people. For you, 30,000, like 1 in every 10 people, that's like an exponential amount.
Well, and I mean, I really try and put things into perspective. Like you were saying, they're not like, these numbers aren't numbers. Like these are individuals with complex lives, and it's important to take that seriously. I mean, we say like, oh, like 10 people, right? 10 people. Imagine 10 people being at your front door. That's like a party. Like that is so. It's a lot of people.
That's not socially distancely allowed, but like it's a party.
It's not. I mean, it's a party. Don't have it. But like when you visualize things that way, and this is something that I think people who aren't on the creator side of social media understand, or the thing that they misunderstand, is that what they say affects us too, like in a big way, because again, like that example before, if you have 10 people on your porch telling you the same thing, it's gonna get in here. And we aren't really designed to take the opinions of hundreds or thousands of people and to be able to like process that. We aren't designed to do that. We haven't evolved to be able to handle that. So as a consumer of content, we also like plead, like, be kind, because your words impact us in a way that you'll never understand. Because for us, we don't gain more power because we have 30,000 followers. Like, I don't change. I'm just as vulnerable. I'm just as angry. I'm just as broken as I was when I had 10 followers. And that anonymity gives people this sense of that they can be cruel and it not have consequences. And it does have real life consequences. And that's why I'm all about this idea of connection. Like the importance of connecting with people and understanding people. It makes life bearable. Where when we are constantly searching and what's the term I'm looking for? Like, I'm not trying to say anymore. I've gotten myself tongue twisted and lost in thought. Be kind. Be kind to each other. Creators, be kind. Consumers, be kind.
Be kind, and recognize that your word could affect somebody.
Words have so much power.
As a musician, you know that really well.
They really do.
So I think we're gonna get started into some questions now.
Great.
Speaking of being kind and being kind of community, so if you have any questions for Mr. Weston or me, even if you'd like, feel free to drop them in the chat and we'll get our moderators to come in. Our first question comes in from the lovely Duffy93. Duffy, we love her.
Hey, Duffy.
What's it, what's it like in your brain when you're creating music?
What's it like in my brain when I'm creating music? Oh, wow, I've never stopped to think about that. What is it like in my brain? I think it is. Is it in my brain? That's wow. What is it like in my brain when I'm creating music? I have no idea what it's like. I think it's a very critical place to be. I am very critical of myself when I'm making music. I am constantly listening for 1,000 different things to make sure that things sound right. I think the most important way that I can answer this question is when I make music, I have faith that what I am putting down in the computer as notes eventually is going to sound great. Because when I write the first little melody, it is barren and it is alone and it is vulnerable, and I have to know that even though that little diddly do that I wrote on the piano is very simple right now, I have to believe that as I add things to it, that it will fill it out and it will make it something that is worthy of other people listening to it. I have this huge philosophy on taking a step into the dark and the importance of taking a step into the dark. A blank page can be the most intimidating thing that's in front of you. And what's more intimidating is a single line on a page, and not like just hoping that all this work and effort that you're putting into whatever your craft is going to turn out well. And then after that people are going to like it. So not only am I thinking, okay, I'm trying to convince my brain, okay, it sounds simple right now. It's going to eventually sound good. I'm going to eventually make it sound exactly the way that I'm hearing it up here. It's not there right now, but I have faith that it will be. And that's what I'm always thinking in my brain.
Yeah.
Lots of criticism up there.
Yeah. Lots of criticism, lots of,
good question,
Duffy. Lots of I have to get this done. Like...
This will eventually be good.
Okay, we have another question from Nespaim. Correct me if I'm wrong. Is there a sound you like to go back on in your work or just in life?
Is there a sound that I like? I'm assuming that I like to use a lot. I love strings.
Yeah.
Say go back on? Does that say go back on? Like the sound that I go back to?
Yeah, back to.
I think that I always start. So I write every song on piano first. I'm not a piano player, but I do pluck out notes and I write it on piano first. So piano is a massively important instrument for me. Usually they end up not having any piano in the actual piece at the end. But piano is such a beautiful instrument to me. I also my second favorite instrument is the cello. The cello is one of the most beautiful, one of the most powerful, one of the most texturally pleasing instruments that exist. It has this powerful low tonality, but then it can also just scream in the high notes. So the cello and the piano are probably my two favorite instruments.
Yeah, awesome. It's definitely I am not a musician by any stretch of the word, but I also love just getting the feel of a song on the piano at first. It's just something rhythmic to it in a way.
Well, and the piano is really cool because there are literal hammers inside of the piano that hit the strings, right? So the piano is both a percussive instrument and also a melodic instrument, and that's why there's that kind of that force to it. It can have its own pattern, its own drive, because it's percussive. It basically has little drums inside of it, which is really cool.
Yeah,
it's a really complex, neat instrument.
Yeah, I used to work with a piano technician when I was back in college, when I used to practice piano a lot. It was just always very interesting to hear and see the processes of a piano. It's one of my favorite instruments. So yeah, we have a question from Bertie the Bard. Hey Wes, what's your favorite theme park?
Disneyland. I love Disneyland.
Mhm.
Close second is Six Flags Magic Mountain because I love roller coasters. Roller coasters are my jam. But there's something absolutely magical about Disneyland. It brings peace to my soul. I love it. I mean, there can be a billion people there, and there's still magic there. They do a really amazing job with that. Yeah.
Cool.
Yep, that's an easy one for me.
Cool. We have a question from Browden. Is there a Vicious Mockery / rap battle song in the works? And would you consider doing a hard rock / metal parodies?
Yes, absolutely, I would. Definitely. It's really all about with the parodies. It's all about kind of the muse, how the muse hits me, and what mood I'm in. Man, I feel like Vicious Mockery is one of those things. Like, I don't know how I would go about doing that. I don't know if I'm much of a wordsmith in that way. I'm a better singer than I am lyricist.
Yeah.
But that would be really fun doing a Vicious Mockery parody. I'm super down for that.
Yeah. Shout out to our man Dankles, who probably has a Vicious Mockery thing out there.
I'm sure
he
he
is
does.
Lyrical master.
And he does it so fast. Like he
Yeah.
writes lyrics so quickly. I'm so jealous of that talent. Dude is a monster. Denkles is the man. If I don't know if you're in this stream, how have you not heard of Denkles? Go check him out immediately.
He's been in the stream. Here and there.
Oh, good.
Yeah.
No, I'm just saying, like, whoever is watching the stream, if they don't know who Denkles is, they need to.
Yeah. If you don't know who Denkles is, what are you doing here? Go check out.
Yeah. What are you doing with your life? Like, what are you doing with your life?
And it's actually funny. We're probably going to announce this at the end of the show, but yeah, Dankles is actually the next guest on Tea with Mr.V next week. Yeah, cool. So we get to learn a little bit more about the lyrical master, the level 20 bard himself, Matt Mercer approved. Yeah.
Denkles' biggest problem is that he's his humility. He doesn't realize what a freaking genius he is. It's the thing that is most frustrating and most wonderful about him.
Yes. Very inspiring and very humble.
Yeah, he is.
Yeah. We have another question from Warrior Kitten 18.
Hey, Warrior Kitten 18.
Wow.
And there's 17 other warrior kittens. Like that's the
there
biggest
are 17 warrior kittens.
Well, the total of 18, but there's her and 17 others at least. There could be a 19. I don't know. That's scary. Go ahead. Sorry.
Yeah. So, are you a sit down and I have to create something kind of guy, or is it more of a this is an exploding out of my brain and I have to create it in a physical form kind of guy?
Getting started is tough for me. Getting started on a project is really hard. So when I sit down, I have to kind of ease into it. There are definitely moments when I know that like I have the mindset. I have ADHD, so I have to make sure that I'm feeling that flow first, and then I can really jump into a project and commit to it. And once I commit to it, I get all sorts of stuff done. The rest of the world melts away. Time melts away. I forget that I'm a husband and that I'm a father, and that's not so good. But literally, that's how music creation is for me. Is I have to get in that flow. So I'm definitely a sit down and create kind of person. Rarely, and those moments that they're describing where it's like exploding out of your brain, those are the moments that every artist wishes was always the case, and it usually is not that way. It's usually not that way. I've written songs that have come to me in 40 minutes, and then I've written songs that have taken me 4 weeks to write. And most of the time, it's the second. It's the latest one where it just takes a long time, because artistry is hard. Artistry takes effort. It doesn't just happen. Talent is not really a thing. Talent is a result of hard work. So when you see or say, if you are tempted to say, wow, you're very talented, instead say, wow, you must have worked really hard to get to where you are.
Yeah.
I'm impressed by the amount of work that's gone into whatever it is that you do. That is a much higher compliment than saying somebody is talented. Good question.
Yeah. Very good question. We have a question from Alex Frost family. Oh, sorry, _ Frost family. Question for me. Ooh, okay.
Oh, wow.
How's it like for you? Yeah, you can sit down and enjoy your drink for a minute. How's it like for you as a content creator? Me as a content creator, I thoroughly enjoy taking my content and making a story out of it. I love creating stories. I'm an actor. I love telling stories. I love all that kind of stuff, and I try to project that as much as I can into my content, and which is why like I'm trying to make a lot more of a move onto like Twitch and like being more of that kind, you know, playing D&D, hosting a show, like, you know, as well as like, you know, other things. So for me, I definitely want to create that story for people, and through my stories I hope to inspire people, make them feel those emotions in ways that, you know, might be enjoyed. So yeah, that's how I feel about me as a content creator.
So you're a storyteller.
I'm a storyteller.
That's awesome.
I am very much a storyteller. I could do a lot of things. I just can't do a lot of things well. Like,
I feel that.
Yeah. I think we've got time for a few more questions. So again, if you have any questions, feel free to leave them in, and we might answer one or two more. Another question from Browden. Will there ever be a song about a vegan mind flare, the Karen?
I think you know. I think you know. Browden, I think you know that will definitely happen for sure. Absolutely. I've never thought of that. That is vegan mind flare. I feel like those just would die. I don't know if mind flayers can be vegan.
How would a mind flare be vegan? Don't they like
it wouldn't. It's like saying a vegan vampire. Like, no, like that can't. No, you can't. They don't like, bite trees and suck the sap out. Like, that's not gonna work. Like, you know, that's good. Good question.
Good question. Question
good,
mark.
Good question.
Yeah, I think we've got time for one last question. This is from Wenzel42. What is your favorite type of score to make?
I love writing dark music. That's kind of my natural sense. That's my natural way to make music in general, is that it usually has a bit of a darker tone to it. Writing happy music is real hard for me. It is super hard for me because writing happy music that isn't annoyingly cheesy is really difficult for me. So anything that I can add a little bit of like twist to, I do it.
Yeah.
That's just how the pathways in my brain are connected. Writing songs in minor keys is way easier for me than writing songs in major keys because there's a complexity there that I like to play with that doesn't exist in lighter themed songs.
Yeah. I love that. And on that note, I think we might wrap up the show for this evening.
All right.
Yeah. So thank you, Weston, for joining me on this show and learning a little bit more about you and why you do the things that you do.
Thank you so much for having me. It was an absolute joy.
Yeah. So again, if there's anything you'd like to promote before we close off the stream for today.
Yeah. Again, ArcaneAnthems on Patreon. If you have the means, I would love your support to keep making music. If you don't have the means, go on my Patreon and download my songs and use them. that is the best way that you can support me. In addition, come see my new show, One Shot 101, tomorrow on Bard Community College. It will start at 5 o'clock PST, and it's going to be a ton of fun. Our first guest is Kyle the Cowboy, and Kyle will be coached through making his first gunslinger character, D&D character. So highly recommend coming out and seeing One Shot 101 mañana.
Yeah, awesome. So yes, I've been your host, Mr. V. Check me out on the Adventures of Mr. V on TikTok, as well as if you want to support this show and what I do, I have a Ko-fi, so kofi.com/tea with Mr. V. Don't have to, if you don't want to, it's just
You have to.
help.
You want to.
But if you want to, yeah, and a lot of that information is in my link tree on TikTok. So yeah, I think, yeah, and remember to tune in next week for the next guest, which would be Mr. Matt Dankles himself, which is going to be a very interesting thing. So yeah, thank you all for coming, and I guess that's the tea for today. All right, thank you. All right, have a good night.